Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, and welcome back to Run8 Train Simulator. Today, we are on the Pennsylvania region for the first time, and we are also going to be running a local for the first time. We are going to be running NS C42, a local running from Rose Yard in Altoona, Pennsylvania, over to Tyrone, Pennsylvania on the east side of the map. We are going to be dropping off a total of 69 cars and picking up 68 cars for the return trip, and we will have two SD40-2s for power. With all that being said, let's jump in the cab, get the train powered up, head on east to Tyrone. Alright, here we are in Rose Yard in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and here is our train in front of us, NS C42. Now, unlike most locals you're going to find in Run8, this local is slightly different. It is a transfer local. Most locals will deliver and pick up cars from customer industries along the line, but we are going to be a transfer local interchanging cars with another railroad. I'll explain a little more about interchanging when we get farther down the line and closer to Tyrone, but for now, we're going to go ahead and get the train powered up, get everything ready to go, and head on east. We'll go ahead and select the locomotives here. We're going to go ahead and verify that the MU connection is okay, and we're going to go ahead and start up both locomotives. You'll hear them powering up here shortly. There's another train over here behind us, departing from its crew change. About to head up over through Horseshoe Curve and on towards Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Perfect, our train's powered up. We're going to go ahead and jump on into the cab here, start getting some things prepped. We'll go ahead and get our engine run switch, gen field, and fuel pumps on. We'll go ahead and also get the gauge lights on. It is slightly dark here and rainy in Altoona today. And we'll come on to the back panel. We'll go ahead and get the platform lights on, get our light switch to short hood lead, and we'll get the engine switch to run. There we go, the isolation switch is set to run. We are all good there. Next we're going to go ahead and do is teleport to the back of the train, and we're going to go ahead and attach our EOT device. Go ahead and attach that now. We'll go ahead and open the angle cock. And you'll notice there is no high-pitched squeal currently coming from the EOT. That's because the air is charging up in the train right now from when we powered it on. As you can see here, if I turn on the top left corner, you'll notice the brakes are at 40. We're going to wait for that to slowly but surely charge up to 90, so we need to wait a little bit to get that up before we can leave. But that's why you're not hearing any EOT squeal right now. And while we wait for that, I am going to jump back into the cab because it is raining outside and cold. While we actually wait for that air to charge up, I'm going to go ahead and go on duty on the Depot Plus, and also just verify all the cars are correct on the train and our train information is correct for departure. So we are expecting a length of 3,919, a tonnage of 5,122, and an HPT right around 1.1. And if we look in the top left corner, 1.2 on the HPT, 5,122 on the tonnage, and 3,919 on the length. That is all correct there. Now, when it comes to locals, you do also want to match the cars that you have on your train with what the computer says. So you want to make sure that you have the correct total number of cars, and also the cars are tagged for the correct destinations when you do your setouts and pickups, so that you are not accidentally picking up or dropping off too many or too few cars. An example of this on this train is that we have 5 loaded 2-bay cover hoppers going to one industry. We also have 8 empty boxcars going to that same industry, 12 loaded plastic pellet hoppers, and 3 loaded tanks. So you want to make sure that what the computer says matches up what you have on your train. And I have already done that in the case of this local, since we do have 68 cars. I went ahead and did that before I started the recording. So I have made sure that we do have the correct number of cars, so we are good to go there. Okay, if you look at the top left corner of the screen, we are now up to 84 PSI, so the brakes have charged in the train. The brakes are slightly applied, so that's why it's at 84 and not at 90. But if you do go to the back of the train, you will notice that the EOT is now squealing, which means the air is flowing through the train correctly, so we're good to go there. Go ahead and jump back into the cab. I'll go ahead and do a brake release just to make sure that the air is releasing correctly. And it is coming up to 90. We'll go ahead and set it back down to 82. And there we go. We have a good set and a good release. The brakes are good on this train. All right, we're ready to go. All we have to do now is we have to throw a few switches up here in front of us so we can get out onto the main line correctly. So before we do that, I'm going to get the locomotive all prepped to go. We'll go ahead and release the parking brake, reverse her into the forward position. And we'll go ahead and release the brakes. Get the headlights to full. Throttle up 1. Let people around us know we're moving. And slowly start releasing the locomotive brakes. We're not going to go far. We're just going to pull up to those switches. And here we go. All right, right about there is good. We'll go ahead and take the power off. We'll go ahead and set the brakes again. A little bit of locomotive brakes as well. Bring the train to a stop. And we'll go ahead and hop out of the train now and start walking down and throw some of these switches. This one's already good to go. It's lined for our movement out of here, so we'll go ahead and keep walking down. This switch is good. This switch we are going to need to throw. Let's go ahead and throw this switch. There we go. This one's good. These two switches need to be thrown, so we'll go ahead and throw this switch. And we'll also go ahead and throw this switch as well. And I think that's pretty much all we need to get out onto the main line. And yep, that's all we need to do to get out onto the main line. And I'll go ahead and bring my train up to this switch, and we'll get clearance out onto the main line here shortly. Alright, our train's pulled up. We'll go ahead and hop back on. And I am also going to have to check in with another player train. That train's sitting over there, that coal load, is a player train. They're currently dropping off their helpers, so I'm just going to check in with them and coordinate to see who goes first and what the plan is. So we'll go ahead and jump back in the locomotive, and we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so I've coordinated with the other player train, which is NS C42. They're just dropping off their helper set after coming down the mountain. So once they finish dropping off their helper set, they'll go through, and then we'll follow them out towards Tyrone. And that is the game plan. So we're just going to wait here for a little bit. That's fine. We're a local. We're not that high priority. And then we'll head on east. And there goes 656 east towards Tyrone. Alright, we're ready to go, so I'll go ahead and go into the dispatch board and go ahead and line myself out behind NS C42. There's another coal train coming behind us, NS C40, but they're going to wait for us. We'll sneak in between them. None of us are really high priority today. So I'll go ahead and give myself a light. We'll go ahead and follow 656 all the way out to CP Gray, where we're going to go ahead and cross over into this yard. That's where we'll be dropping off and picking up our cars before we head back to Altoona. Alright, just checked. We have the light. We'll go ahead and release the brakes. Go ahead and power up. And here we go. There's our approach signal out of the yard. I'm also going to go ahead and turn on the wipers here. Get a little bit faster here since it's raining. And there we go. We're currently restricted to 15 miles an hour until we get out of the yard, so I'll go ahead and take the power back a little bit. And as soon as we clear this switch, as soon as the whole train clears the switch, we can pick up the speed a little bit, as we'll be on the main line. There we go. That beep indicates we are clear of the yard. We can go ahead and pick up the speed a little bit. Get up to mainline speed. But we can only still stay at 30 because we were on a yellow earlier until we get to a better signal indication. Because 656 is still in front of us. So I'll bring us up to 30 for now. And then we'll see what the signals say. We might be able to go a little bit faster. Max speed is 50 out here. And eventually 55 for us. Alright, there's an updated signal for us at CP Antis. We are good to go 45 now. Go ahead and power up a little more. And we're officially on our way to Tyrone. So earlier I mentioned that this local is slightly different than most locals in Run8, and the reason that is the case is because this local is a transfer local rather than a regular local, essentially. Unlike most locals, where they're just delivering and picking up cars from customers along the lines, transfer locals deliver cars to another railroad, or interchange cars to another railroad. Interchange just basically means we're handing over cars to another railroad, and then we're picking up cars that they are handing over back to us. In this case, we are handing over cars to the Nittany and Bald Eagle Railway located in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. It's a short line out of Tyrone. And then we'll be picking up cars that came from the Nittany and Bald Eagle Railway and customers on their line, and they are handing those cars back to us. So that's how this local is slightly different than others. Most locals, you're just delivering and picking up cars from customers on this line, but in our case, we're a little bit different because we are delivering cars to another railroad. And judging by that signal above us, we are getting close to Tyrone. That's an approach signal. So we'll go ahead and start reducing our speed down to 30 miles an hour in preparation for entering the Tyrone interchange track with the Nittany and Bald Eagle. Alright, there's our diverging approach signal into the yard from CP Gray. We are also going through a detector right now, so we should be coming over that here shortly.
Norfolk Southern detected. Milestone 225.9. Track 1, no defect. Total actual 288. No transmission.
And there we go, that's a good report. I am still slowing down below 30 miles an hour, even though we could go through this crossover at 30. It's because we're going to enter the yard right at the signal, and I am going to have to probably throw a few switches, so I'm bringing us down to yard speed at this point, just so we can get ready to make a stop if we have to. And as expected, there's a few switches we need to throw, so we're going to go ahead and start slowing down here. Put some brakes on as well. And there we go, we've come to a stop. We'll go ahead and jump off the locomotive, walk down and throw these switches here. We'll go ahead and first throw this switch right here. That'll get us into the yard, not on the runner track. And then this switch looks like it's good to go, so we can go ahead and pull into the delivery track, which in this case is the track to the left, and then there's all of our pickups from the Nittany and Bald Eagle Railroad on the right track. And here comes the end of the interchange tracks. So we'll go ahead and start slowing the train down here, getting ready to come to a stop. Alright, we can go ahead and come to a complete stop. And there we go, we have come to a stop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to unhook from the cut of cars that we just brought out from Altoona, and then we will run around our power to the other end of the interchange yard, hook up to the cars that we need to bring back to Altoona, and we will bring those back. So right now, what we'll go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and set the reverser to neutral. Go ahead and hop out of the locomotive, go ahead and walk around, and head back to our cars. Alright, and then what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to go ahead and close the angle cock on our locomotives so we don't lose air in the locomotives, but we'll leave the angle cock open. Sounds like there's another train coming through. That detector's going off. So what I was saying is we'll keep this angle cock closed so we don't lose air in the locomotives, but we'll leave this one open so that the air will all dump out of our freight cars, and they are now stationary. So we'll go ahead and leave that open. We'll disconnect the air hose, and that dumps the air in all of those freight cars, so now they are stationary. We'll go ahead and open this coupler knuckle, open this one up, and I want to make sure my switches are thrown correctly for me to pull forward just a little bit. Looks like we do need to throw that switch way down there, but we can do that a little bit later. We just need to pull forward a few inches. What I'll go ahead and do is turn on the top left bar, reverser to forward, brakes released. We'll go ahead and power up. And there we go. Bring those to a stop. And there we go. Our cars are stationary now, and they're ready for the Nittany and Bald Eagle to pick them up. So while that coal train goes screaming past on the main line heading towards Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we're going to come down here and throw this switch so we can get onto the runner track. Go ahead and throw this switch here. This track out here to the left is the Nittany and Bald Eagle Railway, so we're not going to go past that bridge. That's their short line. We don't have anything to do down there. But this switch is now thrown. Go ahead and radio the engineer. He can pull forward and pass the switch. Alright, so our locomotives are now on the runner track, getting ready to head back towards Altoona. For those who do not know, a runner track is basically a designated track that you can't park cars on because it's used for the locomotives to run around all the cars and be able to turn around and head back the way they came. But before we do go through the runner track, I am going to attach an EOT to the back of our cars that we're taking back to Rose Yard. So I'm going to go ahead and select this tank car, and we'll go ahead and attach the EOT right now before we leave. And the angle cock is open, so the air will feed into the EOT as soon as we get the air charged up on the other end. That way I don't have to go walk all the way back to the back of the train once we get the locomotives hooked up at the front. So that EOT is good to go, and we can now head down the runner track and hook up to our cut of cars that we need to take back to Rose Yard. So we've reached the other end of the interchange yard, but we do need to enter the main line just really quickly just so we can back in and hook up to our pickups. So we're waiting for this westbound to pass before we can get our signal out onto the main. But while we wait, I'm going to go ahead and start throwing some switches here to get us ready for our reverse move back to our pickups. We do need to throw this switch really quickly. That way we will be lined into our pickups over here on the right-hand side. And then we also want to throw this switch right here so we can get out of the runner track onto the main line. There we go, that's thrown. We'll just go ahead and wait for this freight to pass us, and then we can head out onto the main. Okay, there's our signal out onto the main. We'll go ahead and pull forward, and then we'll back in and hook up to our pickups.
Norfolk Southern detected. Milestone 225.5. Back 2. No defense. Total actual 438. No transmission.
And C42, bring it back another 3 cars for the hookup. 1 car. Half a car. And there we go. Go ahead and idle the locomotive. And go ahead and jump off. And what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and connect the air hoses and partially open the angle cock and feed the air into the train. This is going to take a little bit. There are 68 cars that we need to take back, so we'll let that charge up. Alright, we've slowly bled enough air into the cars, so we'll go ahead and open the angle cock to full. And we'll let the air charge up the rest of the way in the freight cars. Alright, we've got the air charge back up in the cars, so we can go ahead and do a brake test. We'll go ahead and release the brakes in the cars. Should come back up to 90. There we go, brakes fully released. We'll go ahead and set the brakes again. And the brakes did set again, so we are looking good. Brakes are working, they're responsive, and we are pretty much good to go here and head back to Rose Yard. A little bit more information on brakes for those of you who are new to Run8. There are 4 numbers you want to watch when working with brakes and charging up the air. These 4 numbers up here, MR, ER, BP, and CFM. MR is your main reservoir. This is how much air is stored in your locomotive tanks that can be fed into the freight cars. ER is your equalizing reservoir. This is where you've set your brake handle at. So in this case, I've set mine to 80 psi. And BP is the brake pressure's actual number in the cars, so it is matched at 80, so that means we have the brakes set to where I want them to be set. CFM is a number you want to watch when you are feeding air into the cars. You don't want this to get too high, otherwise you're rushing too much air into the freight cars and it could put your whole train into emergency. That's why you partially open the angle cocks, so you're slowly feeding air into the train. Once you open the angle cock partially, this is going to go up to about probably 120, 130, and you want that number to get below 190 roughly in that area before you open the angle cock fully. Otherwise, it will put your train into emergency because you're rushing too much air into the cars. But yeah, we are good to go. Our cars are hooked up, so we can go ahead and head back up to the front of the locomotives here and get ready to head back west. One thing I'm also going to do before we leave is I'm going to take back the EOT that I put on the rear of the first cut of cars that we brought out to the Nittany and Bald Eagle. So we're going to take that EOT device off. And we do have one on the back of our train already. So this cut of cars is now officially good to go for the Nittany and Bald Eagle. and we have the cars that we need to take back to NS.
Detected.
I've also gone ahead and updated the Depot Plus computers to indicate that we have dropped off our cut of cars for the Nittany and Bald Eagle, and we have also picked up our cut of cars to return back to Rose Yard, so we are ready to go. Okay, we've got our light, switches are set, reverser to forward, got the parking brake off, brakes released, power up. And here we go. We're on our way back to Rose Yard. Alright, we're almost back to Altoona. That diverging approach signal is our light at CP Homer to get into the yard. You can also tell that we're getting close to Altoona because it started raining again. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to leave this train on the exact same track that we picked it up from, so the good news is we won't have to throw any switches on our way back into the yard. Everything is already lined for us. This train was a lot heavier going back to Rose Yard than it was going out to the Nittany and Bald Eagle interchange. I think I only got up to 30 once this entire trip, but we were also going up a slow and steady grade out of Tyrone, so that's probably also the reason we were struggling up the hill with these two SD40-2s. But here we are back in Rose Yard. We'll go ahead and bring this train all the way to the other end of the yard, and that should be pretty much it for this trip. There's the other end of the yard where we'll be coming to a stop, so we'll go ahead and start slowing down the train. Alright, we'll go ahead and take the power off, go ahead and start applying the brakes. And there we go, we have come to a stop. We'll go ahead and dim the headlights, reverser to neutral. Set some locomotive brakes. Go ahead and turn the wipers off. And there we go. And that is it. We have completed the C42 run and brought all the cars back from the Nittany and Bald Eagle Railway back to Rose Yard in Altoona. From here, the power will get cut off the train, brought back to another yard track, and these freight cars will get picked up by a westbound freight heading towards Pittsburgh. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content coming in the future. Also, be sure to turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time we upload a new video, and I'll see you all in the next one.